wonderful.
No worries, not at all.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's fantastic to have you. Everyone is flying in at the moment, as you can see, all our wonderful, wonderful community. So do you have your drink so we can kick it off?
Of course.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been waiting for this.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers, cheers.
Cheers.
Alejandro, you didn't take us seriously
Well,
yesterday
you know, I mean, I'm not into alcohol.
You're not. Hey, fantastic. It's great to have you in. Hey, thank you for all your greetings, guys. You're just flying in. That's amazing. We have this wonderful Loop community, which we are all very proud of, in this, especially in these difficult times. I would like to introduce my panel speakers. I would like to start just with Ged here. Wonderful to have you. Ged Brown. Wonderful to have you. You are a new Loop friend, actually. You were someone I just met recently, but I was absolutely fascinated by the way you were looking into low season traveling and the way it has just turned around and twisted around now in this new times that we have. Let me tell you a little bit about Ged. He's the CEO and founder of the world's first organization completely dedicated to low season traveling, which is very amazing. He has a background of a lot of senior positions with tour operators in the UK. You're based in Manchester, and a very warm welcome. I'm happy to have you.
Thank you. Delighted to be here. Thank you, Astrid.
Thank you. Well, we have Susanne Singer. She is, I know Susie as a very, very curious, and I recognize her always as a very curious lady reaching out for more, and she wanted more, and she got more. You opened your own wonderful company 1.5 years ago, a niche tour operator called One Fine Moment in Munich, and many colleagues really appreciate you a lot because you're one of these partners that listens and always tells others your opinion, so we can all learn together. And I think this is fantastic. You are a very brave entrepreneur because your company is still more or less in a startup phase in these times, and it's really great to have you to share your opinion about the German-speaking countries and a lot of more we're going to talk about. Welcome, Susie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, you are sitting in this beautiful hotel, Schloss Leopoldskron. We can see behind the library. Amazing, amazing background you have. Daniel and I go back many, many years as well, over 12, 13 years. Daniel has a very good background in the luxury hotel industry, actually. Worked for many good brands. I don't want to mention all the names because I don't think it was a lot, but it's a great career you had. Now you are the vice president of the hospitality at Hotel Schloss Leopoldskron, the home of Salzburg Global Seminar, and you oversee all the daily hotel operations. I understand it's an independent non-profit organization, but you also are running Hotel Schloss Leopoldskron, the birthplace of the Salzburg Festival. Festivals, by the way, which was built in 1736. And I have been at your place several times. I mean, being Austrian, of course, I always like to go back home, but this is a very, very special place at this lake. It's magical, it's a place of power. And you made something really special out of it, and I'm very happy to have you back, Daniel.
Thank you.
Community.
Thank you, Astrid, and thank you for the intro.
Thank you. Alejandro, last but not least, you are in Madrid at the moment, right?
Yes.
Yes, Alejandro, we know each other also for many, many moons. It feels like it. I had the big honor to be almost one of your first guests at Schau Wellness Clinic when you opened. I know your family well, and I've been kind of part of the family, and it was really great to see over these 12 years how Schau Wellness Clinic developed in a positive way. I think you were at that time one of the pioneers in Europe with a destination spa. Maybe some people were not ready for that because you guys were so innovative with macrobiotic food. And if you feel like going to a destination spa, please do it now. I think we all need it, because when you are there, I know it for myself, 3 or 4 days, your body just starts changing. And because of the great food and everything you can experience there. The history of Shah is a little bit, it's a very personal history actually, because your dad, your father at that time had really critical issues, health issues, and he was lucky enough to see one of these doctors who had a great understanding of nutrition and natural therapies, everything that is required to be healthy and to also have a good immune system nowadays, which is so important. So you took this philosophy and you're bringing it out to the world and sharing it with everybody, which is a really, really great thing, a great, wonderful inspiration to do. Shah is in Alicante. Shah ministry is in Alicante, so for the Europeans, very easy to reach. Welcome, Alejandro. I'm happy to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for your kind words. We definitely feel you as part of the family. And you were even before our first guest, you were when we were in construction, and it definitely went fast, 12 years.
Certainly did. I would also like to introduce myself for those who don't know me or don't know our company. My name is Astrid. I founded Lobster Experience 12 years ago together with my husband and partner in crime, Andreas, and we have a wonderful team of 30 lobsters in our crowd and in our team, and we also founded the luxury travel show Loop, Luxury on Our Planet, 6 years ago, because we wanted to make sure there's a place for the German-speaking community and the Central Eastern community for sales and PR to be together and do what we have to do to make our lives easier, but also this luxury community is so close. We are really all very emotional. It's difficult at the moment for all of us. I think that we cannot see each other, hug each other, and do everything we need to do. So I'm really happy to have you. I would like to kick in, and I would like to ask you in a very personal question, to be honest. It's a very personal question. I would like to hear from you if you could share your most favorite moment in the last couple of weeks and months. It could be personal, it could be private, your most favorite moment that you would like to take away, also when this crisis is completely over. What was it that you really thought, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this earlier, or it makes me happy? Daniel, do you want to start?
Thanks for putting me on the spot. You know, the best moment for us after being closed for 11 weeks was that moment when I knew that the gate was open again and we could welcome guests again, because to us, that's, you know, we love hospitality. We breathe hospitality. My team and I, you know, we live for this moment when guests walk in through the door. I have to be honest, it was only 3 guests when we reopened, and currently we have 2 in the hotel and 0 arrivals today. So it's not exactly great at the moment, but that moment when the first guest arrived, and when you realize that all the measures that we've taken, the safety measures, the hygiene measures, and all the new service initiatives that we took, when you see that that kicks in and that machine is going, that was a great feeling. Because
I know what
no
you
hotel
mean.
without guests, you know, what good is a hotel if there's nobody here?
Absolutely, I know what you mean. Absolutely, I hear you. Susanne, what was it for you?
It was a very personal one, to be honest, to see my family again, to see them again, to sit together with a glass of wine, doing things which you did for years, which were completely normal. And then after such a long time apart, to really have a nice long chat and being cozy together. This feeling was probably the most amazing I had the last month.
I can understand that. Alejandro.
Well, I think this time, even if it has been and it continues being challenging on the professional side, it's been very positive, at least for me on the personal side. Usually I'm pretty much on the road, so to spend 3 months at home with my family, I have 2 kids, 4 and 7 years old. We've started with many new habits, and one of it has been meditating together on a daily basis. in such young ages, it has been very challenging at the beginning, but it's one of the things that make me happier about these days. And definitely the encounter with my family. I had the opportunity to meet again with my parents and my brothers after 3 months. And something as Susan said, that it's so normal, it became so magical that it's a moment that it would last in my memory, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, cool moments as well that we want to take away. What about you, Ged?
I think probably well, there's two things really. One of the most positive things, bizarrely, that happened was I lost my last paid work in March, just when all of this kicked off, and that meant that I could devote myself more fully to the projects that I've been doing on low season travel. So I've never worked as hard in my life and never got paid less. And, you hear a lot of people saying that. So I think that actually bizarrely was a positive, even though I've got no money. But I think the other thing is the closeness that I've got from being distant from people, which I think sounds bizarre, but I guess like everybody here, we've been part of brilliantly organized events like Loop Faces, this talk here that we have today, different webinars, different Zoom calls, and I've sort of met so many kindred spirits, and I think that's been a real positive. I've literally seen into the living rooms of more people than I ever could have imagined or dreamed of in my life, and I think that's been a real positive, actually, that we can actually. It's not the same as face to face and in person. And I don't think it would ever be as good as that, but it's been quite comforting to me to know that I'm not on my own through talks like this.
Absolutely, I agree with you. When we started the Loop Faces 6 weeks ago, we were all still in a kind of a shock phase, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do it, and then everybody said, you were crazy, everybody's still paralyzed, and I said, yeah, but now this is a talk, this is something we want to create for all of us, so that we have some hope, something to look forward to, and especially to show we are not alone.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Daniel, you are in a very super historic place, and you have been very much depending on Asian and American clients in the past. Are there any trends that you can see for the future? Are you becoming creative? You have to shift, obviously, markets and concepts. How are you going to handle the situation at the moment?
It's true, yes. We about 25% of our market is the US, about 10% Asia. But overall, we have a very international clientele. So predominantly, the marketing and sales activities were geared to those markets. And now with international borders closed and travel restrictions, obviously, we have shifted all of our efforts onto the German-speaking and obviously Austrian market. The problem, if you like, with our hotel is that many of our guests conceive it as or perceive it as a bucket list item, something that they wanted to do once in their lifetime, to do it and then kind of tick that off their list, and that makes it very difficult for us to generate return guests. We do have a very loyal clientele in the summer who come for the Salzburger Festspiele, the festival, which obviously now is also only 4 weeks instead of the usual 6, and it's obviously a lot shorter. And the other thing that we are very good at and that we do a lot of is weddings. So we've had, I think, about 40 weddings on the calendar beginning of March, and right now I have 6. And the rest of those weddings are either canceled or postponed into 2021. And bookings for 2021 were quite solid, so it's difficult to find dates for those who want to postpone, and then canceling. That was a bit of an issue, but we do see trends. One of the trends on the wedding market certainly are the winter weddings, and that has picked up over the past couple of years. And in fact, it was, I think, 2 years ago when the lake that is exactly opposite the Schloss, opposite the palace, when that lake froze over and people were able to take their wedding photos standing on the frozen lake with the palace in the background. That was certainly quite unique. But as we look into the future, we remain optimistic. It's there's no use for complaining. It's all about looking forward and trying to gain guests' trust to come and stay with us. This period requires a lot of trust. People are risk aware. Obviously, risk changes depending on the generation. Some people see it differently than others. Younger people tend to look at it differently than older guests. But we have obviously looked ahead. We've put all the measures in place that we're required by law, but we've also launched a number of new initiatives. One of my favorites is what we call the Choose Your Room service, which is a breakfast that you can have in any of the rooms, any of the historic staterooms, just like the library that I'm in right now, for an intimate breakfast for two. So you can really take advantage of the space that we have. And we have 17 acres. So we're now looking a lot more at how to utilize that space, how to engage with the spaces that we have to, you know, to make sure that we can practice social distancing, but also create an authentic experience. It's not about being clinical. You know, you don't want to feel like you're checking into a hospital. You want to, you know, go and have an authentic historic experience. And so for us, the question was not, you know, scaling down on services and products, but really going the opposite, going full steam ahead, launching new initiatives and doing all the things that we can to make this an experience that is authentic, that is, you know, worth people's trust when they come and decide to stay with us.
Fantastic. Just a quick question. Austria is, the mask obligation is going to be dropped now in 2 weeks or in 1 week, right?
Apparently on the 15th, they drop it. We obviously haven't gone for masks for our staff. We've gone for, here it is, my face shield. You know, so we've gone for these.
Oh, wow.
That looks like that.
Wow.
At least, you know, at least the good news is that at least it allows you to smile and guests can see your smile, and it's not, you know, you don't feel like you're being checked in by a doctor. But we monitor it very closely. It changes daily. You know, there's new initiatives, new measures, new rules. The government is committed to helping everybody, which sounds great in theory. You know, we've now had 3 months of short labor, which saves us about 360,000 euros. But, you know, if it weren't for our first quarter, where we've had a very, very big piece of business that, you know, saved our cash flow, we've only seen 1 month of that being paid back at the moment. And the other 2 months we had to pay. So imagine being closed for 11 weeks and not seeing any revenues, not seeing any money, but having to, you know, put that kind of money up. Is difficult, and that's an issue for a lot of the hotels.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, Alejandro was mentioning Spain didn't do such a good job in the past, but I mean, even Austria, you know, the politics. I mean, we have to be patient, even if they do a lot supposedly. Yeah, that's tough for the cash flow. Absolutely.
And we're all just passengers right now. You know, there's nothing else you can do. You know, just to go ahead with and remain optimistic and just motivate yourself with the idea that there's bright lights ahead, and you know there's sunshine after the storm.
Absolutely, I love your hedge heels. They even have your logo. That's well done.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thanks.
Susie, how did you see the last 3 months, especially here in the German-speaking markets? I have seen you demonstrate on the street for the rights of the agencies, for the survival of the travel agent as well. You are a niche operator. You are in a little slightly different business model. We're going to talk about this, but how were you last couple of, let's say, 2 months and weeks for you as a startup company with a lot of know-how, great clients? How did you cope?
Well, it was a lot of ups and downs. It's probably for everybody of us. There were days when I put my head on the table and said, you know what, I don't want to go on anymore. And there were days where you said, okay, no, I know for what I'm doing this and for whom I'm doing it. There were a lot of also very nice moments in these really tricky times, like when you get clients calling you, asking you, how are you doing? Are you okay? We hope you're going to go be okay. We need you for the future. You know, a lot of help from client side, but also a lot of help from hotels and agencies like DMCs with whom you have worked like for ages. And also on the other hand, somewhere you said, you know what, then that's going to be not what we are doing for the future. And people with whom you know you're not going to work anymore because they were not very helpful in this time. I mean, it's a tough time, as Daniel said as well, for all of us. We all need to talk about it. I think the most important thing which I've learned for the last month is like communication is everything, on the client side as well, of the hotels and on the DMC side. Like everybody needs to see where we're standing, what can we do together, how can we all help out together and try to get this. This was probably my biggest lesson I've learned for the last weeks. Let's put it like that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I never. Now is the time to talk to your clients more than ever. Absolutely, yeah. You've done a great job. You were very present, and it's difficult to be present and active in such times. But you have to get out of the dark. That those companies that went out of the dark, I personally think will have it much easier now to go back. Yeah, thank you, Alejandro. You have a destination spa wellness clinic with a lot of amazing treatments and know-how. Do you think that the Spa Wellness Clinic has an advantage now to other, just say, spa retreats with its setup and philosophy? How are you going to handle this for your guests? What can they expect when they come? And actually, I want to book today.
Me too, by the way. Me too.
Well, you have to wait until July 22nd, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But we can book you from now, definitely. Well, I think, as you all know, wellness industry had a big evolution, and it was already growing twice faster than traditional tourism for the last decade. As you said before, Astrid, when we started, not many people were aware about a serious medical wellness concept could be about, and people used to relate it more with a conventional spa. I think this will be definitely an eye-opening and a waking call for many people. Unfortunately, sometimes we only value health enough when we have the risk of losing it, as we are having at the moment that we had on the past 10 to 12 weeks. Of course, the wellness industry nowadays is as affected as any other tourist alternative, but I think it will, on the mid and long term, definitely it will suppose an increase on the demands. More and more people will rethink about taking a healthy path and taking better care of themselves, dedicating more time to themselves. Of course, reinforcing their immunity, as we are hearing so much messages nowadays. On the other side, I think it's definitely an advantage on these moments from creating the health protocols. We have 30 doctors in-house creating the health protocols, the disinfection system to put in place. We had many colleagues from the industry calling to ask what is the best system. There is a lot of smoke out there as well at the moment, and you have to be wise in order what to select and what is effective enough. I think there is going to be a big evolution from now until, I would say, a couple of years from now on all these type of systems. And many of these systems are going to become more and more popular in our industry, how to disinfect air, water, surfaces, etc. We've been focusing on this time first on keep supporting our guests, which has been a challenge because, of course, we had to reduce our team, nearly 90% of our team for all this time we've been closed. And the team who has remained active has done a great work to keep generating content, to keep supporting our guests. So in order for them to stay healthy on their homes. Second, we've been taking advantage of this time to improve our facilities and to do some stuff that is difficult to do while you're open. So we've done some great reinforcement on the wellness area, on the clinic side, on the terraces, etc. And third, we've been reviewing all our health programs, developing immunity package in order to welcome back our guests and support them after this time.
What are they gonna be expecting when they arrive, if a guest arrives on July 22nd? How are you gonna handle the protocol? Do you know already, or?
Yes, we do. We do know already. Well, prevention must be always definitely the first step to take care of your health. What I'm going to mention, perhaps for a traditional tourist alternative, maybe to too severe, but we're going to be asking our guests if they've gone through COVID, or they have been in contact with anyone who's going through COVID, or they're feeling the symptoms, to take a test and to share with us the results before coming to shop. If they didn't have any of those symptoms, they can come. It is suggested to take a test before traveling and to send it to us, but it wouldn't be mandatory. When you are arriving to Shah, we are doing the antibody test to all our guests. We already have from the very beginning a medical checkup, so it's not like we're going to welcome you and it's going to be something strange. Is on your medical checkup that is going to be in the moment of arrival. We're going to include this test. I think it makes sense at the moment. And then we have designed different protocols, installed technology. For example, we have thermographic cameras that can see your body temperature in both staff and guest entrance. We're going to be doing as well the test to all our staff before coming back to the work, and we're going to be following up on them in case they have any symptoms. We are using UV technology to disinfect, especially the more sensible areas, gym, wellness treatment rooms. We are disinfecting through this and other clinical systems, all the suites and residents on the moment of checkout. At the end of the day, actually, we're a health facility. It's not a place just that you come to sleep. First, people is coming to improve their health. So we want to make sure that they always go better and never worse. No, so they don't
work out worse than before. Exactly.
We have to put everything in our hand to make sure that even if it's impossible to talk about COVID-free, but we put everything in our hand to make sure that they remain healthy. And then, of course, we have reviewed all our nutrition to focus more on the immunity boosting side, and we have adjusted our programs and packages.
Great. No, I think you probably, I mean, the infrastructure is there. It's the best place to go, definitely, because of all that. And with 30 doctors in place, yeah, my favorite treatment is the Watsu, for sure. I love that.
Can I ask a question?
Please. Sure.
When I think it's really commendable, all of the different sort of the steps which you're going through, Alejandro, to protect your staff and your guests. Do you have any concern, if you have international guests coming? So if I was coming over from Manchester, I could have a test tomorrow, and it would say that I'm clear. But I've got to go through Manchester Airport. I've got to go on a flight with other people. I've got to arrive in the destination airport before I actually get to you. If then I take a test, there is a chance that I might have picked it up on the way. Then would I get turned away? Presumably, if I had a positive test.
No, you wouldn't get turned away. First of all, as I was saying before, I'm seeing some properties to talk about COVID-free. I think it's irresponsible to say COVID-free because it's impossible. As you say, you can invest all the budget of the world in terms of technology. As soon as someone who has COVID arrives to the facility, then COVID is in there, no? Definitely you can do the PCR before coming and get COVID on your way. We're doing the antibody test, and if you are showing any symptom, we can also do the PCR in the moment of arrival. And what we're doing is, Shah is composed by 6 different buildings, even if the property is not so big, because we have 100 suites in total, but they are divided in 6 different buildings. So we are dedicating one of the buildings exclusively for potential COVID cases. Yep. So in case you arrive and you are positive on COVID, you have, of course, the possibility to stay. And we have taken all measures to keep welcoming you, even if you are COVID positive. The only point is you won't be able to enjoy many of the treatments and many of the activities in order to protect the rest of the guests and the staff.
Yeah. But hopefully that would be a very low number of people anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
If any.
But Ged,
Yeah.
don't you have to go into 2 weeks of quarantine if you return to the UK?
That is correct at the moment,
Yeah.
as it stands at the moment, which is, I mean, that's the bane of the travel industry here in the UK at the moment.
Well, at the moment,
At the moment, I mean, they said that they're going to reassess it again in 3 weeks' time, but as it stands at the moment, if we travel anywhere apart from the Republic of Ireland, then we have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks on return to the UK, and so does anybody else coming to the UK. One of the loopholes, if you'll pardon the pun, Astrid, one of the loopholes is, of course, a lot of people are saying that they could go on vacation, fly over to Dublin, check out over to Dublin, come back via Dublin, hop over to Manchester, and they won't have to quarantine, which kind of makes a mockery of the whole thing. It just means that the Irish travel industry presumably will do very well out of the Brits, actually.
Right. Yeah. Well, I get you have. I mean, when we were talking, I've never really thought about this angle that is coming out now, because you decided to open this company with low season travel before COVID came,
yep.
And now it has presented a unique opportunity actually to flatten the seasonality curve and inspire people to travel during low season. I mean, going to Salzburg is a heaven probably now, because you have nobody walking around there. So how do you see this at the moment? Is this the chance for shifting and getting luxury clients aware of that? Tell me.
I think we've got an opportunity for, well, not only for luxury clients, but for everybody. But you're right. I founded the company in 2018. And it was founded because I was genuinely concerned for over-tourism. I actually think the road we were going down in global tourism was not a good place. And all of the predictions from the UNWTO, their vision for 2030, there's no way that was sustainable. And I thought that we were going to be ruining the tourism potential for future generations and ruining our cultural heritage and some of the destinations that we enjoy traveling to. And I was concerned about the visitor experience, because when you see pictures of, and I'm not picking on it, but Venice, for example, in the peak season, when everybody's thronged together like this, and all I'm doing when I look at those photos is I'm thinking, is that the experience that they want in Venice? Because it's not the experience I want. I've never been to Venice. And if I look at those photographs, if that's going to be the experience, then frankly, that's not the experience I want from Venice. So I'm going to have to say I've missed the opportunity to experience Venice at the best possible time. So the organization was set up for people, I guess, like me, that don't like crowds, that want to travel without the crowds. And, if the weather is different, then I'm okay with that. I don't just travel for the weather. I'm not a fair weather traveler. And I figured that there must be more people out there that are like me. Then we have, the COVID-19 situation, which actually just accelerated what I saw as coming further down the line. I figured that maybe, it will be between 5 and sort of 7 years before people will really start thinking, what, we need to travel during the low seasons and we need to, get away from the crowds. With the onset of COVID-19, obviously we went from over-tourism to zero tourism in a heartbeat, which made me sound crazy talking about over-tourism and everyone saying, we haven't got any tourism. But I think bizarrely, one of the implications of that is that, well, there's two main implications as I see it. First of all, in many destinations around the world and properties, it is deeply seasonal. Tourism tends to be seasonal. We have our highs and our lows, at times when more people tend to come and times when they don't come. The times when they don't come, we haven't had too much of a problem, because if we have a good peak season, that's okay, that pays for the year. Well, all of a sudden, we're in a situation now for parts of Southern Europe where that peak season is being impacted. And therefore, you've got hoteliers, you've got tour operators, you've got destinations, cafe owners, everybody. And they're all thinking, you know what, we're going to have to extend the season. So now, all of a sudden, people are saying, okay, now we need to seriously look at extending the seasons and promoting in a proactive way the low seasons. So I think that's bizarrely one of the things that we have as a golden opportunity for all of us to broaden seasonality for the first time.
Yeah, it's an amazing chance, actually. I mean, Daniel, Salzburg is one of these hotspots of over-tourism in certain peak times, obviously. So how will a city like Salzburg cope with that? Is the community talking about it? What do you get here? How they are changing?
But it's very interesting what Ged said about, you know, the seasonality and why people travel at certain times. I mean, there are some destinations obviously where you're bound to travel during a certain season. You can't go skiing when there's no snow, and you can't sunbathe on a beach when it's cold. But I fully agree, and I'm part of that group who don't like crowds, and I'm 100% with Ged on Venice. I've never been to Venice. I wish I had been to Venice, but seeing the images and some of the, you know, reading the articles, how you have to queue to get to certain places, it's just no thanks. You know, it's just that's a destination that I will have missed. You know, I've been fortunate enough to see other destinations before you know, the tourists came, and you know, it kind of reminds me of that famous Hans Magnus Enzensberger quote that says something like that the tourist destroys what he seeks by finding it, and that is very often the case. And in Salzburg, I don't have the latest figures for Salzburg, but take Hallstatt. It's a small, picturesque town, an hour from Salzburg, 800 residents. It's not even a town, it's a village. They get 10,000 visitors a day in the summer.
A day.
And this picturesque little town was one of those typical Austrian towns where people didn't lock their front doors, they didn't lock their back doors. It was just, you know, you knew everybody. And people started locking their doors, you know, and I'm not picking on anyone from Asia, but I've heard from some of the locals that people have been standing in their living rooms asking for the bathroom because they thought it was all some big outdoor museum or something. And Hallstatt is so famous that in China, they actually built a replica of it. But the affluent Chinese now want to see the original. So now they come even more people come to Hallstatt. And, you know, on the other hand, we must not be surprised that destinations are falling victim to their own success. I mean, after all, we've been going out there for years telling people, come. And now they're coming. You know, I was, you know, Astrid, you remember when I was working with Four Seasons, I went out there and people actually asked me if I worked for Four Seasons or if I worked for the Hungarian Tourist Board, because I was promoting Budapest. And I said, you know, you come to Budapest. That's the first thing I need to convince you of. And then once you decide you want to come to Budapest, then you'll stay with us hopefully anyway. But it's the issue in Salzburg, to come back to your question, is that this dependence from tourists has led to a transformation of the old town, a touristification of sorts. You know, you have numerous souvenir shops in the old town that are geared to tourists. You have less shops now geared to the locals. So less locals are coming. So less locals are coming. It's a vicious circle, means that other shops are closing that are geared to locals, and they're moving to the outskirts malls where the square meter prices and the rentals are lower. So then all of a sudden you have an old town that is full of souvenir shops, that is full of snack bars and restaurants and you know, all the globalization type of places. And now there's no tourists. And the locals say, hey, great, we can actually start going to the old town again, but then they realize there's nothing for us to buy here.
That's amazing.
So that's a bit of an issue. You know, you know, how I went to the old town on Sunday. I went to the old town, and in Salzburg, the old town and the main shopping street is quite, you know, iconic. And I went to the old town on a Sunday afternoon, beginning of June, and there was hardly anyone. And it was only the locals, but of course, Sunday, everything's closed. But you do walk around and you think, geez, you know what, where are the shops that really attract the locals to come back to the city centers? And the other issue, equally important, if not more dramatic, is the increase in Airbnb accommodations in entire neighborhoods, often by commercial operators. And as a hotelier, you know, I just don't have any understanding for the lack of regulation they have. And if I'm looking for, and I'm coming back to this word, authentic experience, and you go to stay at an Airbnb because you think you're going to be staying in an area where there's a lot of locals and you live with the locals and you blend in and nobody's going to know that you're not from Barcelona, well, wake up. You know, some of these neighborhoods the locals can't afford to live there. And I'm not telling you anything new. Everybody knows this, but it's just a combination of these two. And now I've heard and read articles from people who have invested their savings into buying property so that they can rent it on Airbnb, and people aren't coming, so they're defaulting on their loans. There's massive issues, and I'm not the person who is happy about other people's misfortune, although Germans have a word for that. I mean, Germans are the only people who have a word for that, Schadenfreude, taking pleasure in someone else's misfortune. I don't have that, but it does show me that there's a reason why hotels have been there for a while, and why there's regulations and why there's all these rules. But and by no means is this a problem that's exclusive to Salzburg. I mean, look at Dubrovnik, Barcelona, Berlin, Florence, Rome, Venice. I mean, you name it. And it's going to be an interesting shift, and it has to be a shift in people's minds. It's this avoiding the crowds, going, and Salzburg now, the entire summer, which is normally full, I think we're in the low season for the rest of the summer. So if you've not been to Salzburg, please come.
Oh no. Great.
I'm on my way.
Thank you.
Susie, Germany did a pretty good job with COVID, as we all know, and read in the press, also in other countries. Do you expect the travel agencies, the travel trade to change? And we all know that there's a lot of travel agencies. We have niche tour operators. You're one of these wonderful niche tour operators. I love niche tour operators because you can also, you bring a message across, and if I'm a hotelier and I know that you will tell me I can sell it, I can't, I understand it, I don't, you're very close. So how do you see the future of the German travel trade? The travel agencies did an amazing job the last couple of weeks all over the world, rebooking, versus the big tour operators also. So is there going to be a change, a shift? Can you see bookings coming in? What are your clients thinking?
Well, when I founded One Fine Moment last year, I did this because I really just always believed in niche tour operators. I believed in working directly with hotels, believed in working directly with DMCs, because as individual as the clients are, you can do this in a quite perfect way if you really do work direct with them. And I think seeing now how clients react, how clients are requesting a little bit again, but very hesitating, well, if you ask me personally, the first question would always be, how would be the cancellation policies? How flexible can we be? What is going to be the payment policies? And this you see more and more coming. And I think after all we've been through, after all these getting people back, doing rebookings, shifting bookings, doing cancellations, it's all about the complete flexibility. And this, if you ask me, is going to be very important for the future as well. I mean, if we want to get it all going, we need to be 100% flexible. We need to talk to the hoteliers and say, listen, you need to understand, if we want to get a booking now for December, we need to be as flexible as possible to get it done. And this is what I see for the future very, very important, more and more. Also about the payment conditions, the strict payment conditions. The clients won't accept them anymore in cases like now what we had with COVID.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah,
now more than ever, it shows that it's not just the travel business that we're in the relationship business. And it's about the relationships between the hoteliers with their tour operators and their travel agents, the travel agents with their partners. And I can only second what Susanne said about payment, and some of our GTC. We are looking at reformulating our GTC because we have had so much pushback from clients who said, that it's just so difficult to adhere to those.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you. And I mean, I hear what you said, Susie, as well. I hear so many of your colleagues that say, we will not forget who treated us, how in this crisis period, and who not even just maybe even didn't talk to us, just sending emails. They didn't even communicate. They just send an email. It's not possible. We just pick up this phone and talk to the people. I mean, talk to the clients. I mean, the hoteliers, the suppliers out there as well, all the way around. So it's a very, very interesting time of valuing relationships more and more, definitely.
Yeah, and it's all about right?
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, if it's hotels or clients, it doesn't matter. It's all about the trust on each and every side of it. Super
Trust
important.
is the magic word of this time. Trust, trust, trust. Alejandro, I'm sure this is something you don't like to hear, but I was so excited about your new constructions for Mexico. You were planning after 12 years to expand the SHA method, the SHA message outside in the world. You are sitting on a construction in Mexico and also SHA Emirates. So that's on hold. Now you have to bring back SHA again. I've seen a lot of hotels coming out with immune system packages now. You know, an immune system pack, even if they're not in wellness. I think it's a nice idea, but obviously you guys are doing this in a very serious way. So I've seen also you have a very strong immune package going out. So what do you teach the people at SHA? How they can boost it? What are your techniques? Your microphone, you need to put your mic on. Please.
There I am, sorry.
No
I had it in silence to don't interrupt. Well, first regarding the expansion, Astrid, yes, we've been, since the very beginning, we had the idea to expand SHA brand. It is a very difficult concept to replicate. It's very complex. And we've taken the decision some time ago, and we announced it last October that we're expanding to Mexico, to Costa Mujeres, and to Emirates, to a place called Al Jurf, that is between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We started construction on both locations. Now we are on hold. We expect to have around 6 months delay with Mexico property and nearly 1 year delay with Emirates property. So we are talking about beginning of 2022 for Mexico and end of 2023 for Emirates. I don't know how visionaries we are, because we started on the global crisis of 2008, as you asked it, and now we are in the middle of this new challenge with the COVID crisis. But we are learning to swim into tsunamis, I believe. Regarding immunity, it's becoming a very popular word, as you say, too popular, no? Mm-hmm. Everyone seems to be an expert in immunity, and everything seems to increase your immunity. There are basically two things that help you increase your immunity. One is related with lifestyle, and I'm talking about a healthy nutrition, exercise, sleep quality. And the other one, there are different treatments. Once there are different tests that can help us to have an idea of how our immunity is. There are different techniques that can help us to boost our immunity as a complement to our lifestyle. If you don't have the right lifestyle, I'm afraid this won't be your solution. So we're talking about ozone therapy, serum therapy, infrared heat, cell regeneration. We are seeing actually how plasma, it's helping some patients to recover from COVID. So there are different things we can do at this moment. Just to add a bit about what you were mentioning before, Astrid, about how the consumer is going to change and what they're looking for after this COVID. I think people will continue traveling. That's clearly a human need, a human necessity. But I think we were already focusing, all of us, we are on the luxury travel segment, to probably the most demanding, the most the more knowledgeable consumer of these last times. And now they're gonna become even more demanding about what to expect if they leave their area of comfort, if they leave their comfortable houses and they decide to travel. they are going to need a very good reason to travel. And they are going to be much more disappointed if that goal is not achieved. I believe this is one of the things we're going to see coming. In our industry, one interesting thing that I wanted to bring up, it's about workations, how to combine your work and your holiday time. When we started with SHA, we created an app to manage your experience, and we were allowing people to connect to whatever their mobile devices on a spa. Many people who were coming from a traditional spa industry were wondering if this is what you are expecting from a retreat. Mm-hmm. And I think that one of the trends that we are going to see, how remote work is increasing, is people who combines their work with their holiday time. In our case, we have a 60% of single travelers, of people who come by themselves, and they come to do and invest on themselves. And I think this is an opportunity as well for longer stays, for people who, instead of continue working at your home, you decide to travel to a beautiful place when, in this case at SHA, you're gonna be achieving your health goals while you continue taking care of your business, no?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, so true. Absolutely, so true. And they will probably need it more than ever now, that's for sure. Ged, the luxury traveler that is spending more, and this is really more or less our community here. I mean, it's easier for them to obviously travel in low season in a more convenient way anyway, or it's easier for them. Do you think there's any destinations that are more, can you see something coming up where people will be going to now that we maybe haven't thought of before?
I think it's going to be all about the experiences on offer. So when we look at at luxury travel, when we look at Daniel's hotel, is that hotel a beautiful place to stay in January, in February, in July? The experience, it's exactly. It's a wonderful place to stay regardless. I think we've got old school notions that, seasonality is linked to weather. And, Daniel mentioned before as well about, okay, if your objective is to lie and flop on a beach, okay, that is going to be deeply seasonal. But other than that, if it's about the experience, and when we talk about luxury properties and we talk about luxury operators, what luxury as a sector do better than anybody else is they focus on the experience to be had. And there are wonderful experiences to be had at every time of the year in every destination in the world. I think we just need to have more confidence in those different seasons and in the different times of the year, and have confidence in these unique experiences that the luxury travel sector actually can bring. Because without a doubt, the luxury travel sector is absolutely the sector that you want to be involved in when we're talking about spreading seasonality. Because, if you were to compare it to, I don't know, if I was going to be staying in a 3 or even a lower 4-star property somewhere in the low season, I don't think that the experience would be as good as a higher end luxury property. And that's because of attention to detail and service as well, which you get all year round. I had a great quote, Astrid, which was from, it was a guy I met in Latvia when we were talking about seasonality and broadening seasonality. And I was saying, what's Riga like in January or February or whatever. I said, it must be freezing cold. He said, Ged, beauty is beauty, whether it's in the cold or whether it's in the warm. Beauty is beauty, no matter what. And the experiences that you get in the luxury sector, they're wonderful experiences, regardless of the weather, regardless of the time of the year. It's beyond that. And I think we have to have confidence in that. It is.
It's a mindset.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Very, very true. Very, very true. Susie, just one last question. What do you see? Are people already requesting long haul as well, or is it still more short haul bookings? How do you see the trend at the moment?
Changing every day, actually. It's still very, very hesitating on the long haul. We had some bookings for Germany, of course, as nobody was sure if the borders are going to go up. There is a very, very hesitating start into Europe for us. But also there, as having said before, people aren't sure, is everything going to open up? How is each hotel gonna be? How are the destinations? Are the shops going to open up? How is it with the restaurants? But at least it is a little bit more positive than some weeks ago when all these clients were in like a shock, as we all were, I guess. They're thinking again of traveling and they're planning again. So this is the nice thing I would say I see.
And I mean, we shouldn't forget that it was only announced, I think, last Thursday that about the travel bans to drop. It was just it just really recently happened, and I think people can't believe it. And I just think I was, you know, it's like if I see one of my colleagues on an airport at the moment traveling to some kind of destination, like Sandra is in Venice at the moment, it's like, oh, tell me more. Okay, it's working, it's so cool. I just think we need to go and just do it and show other people. And I think I've heard some agencies as well that are really concerned about traveling, and I'm like, my gosh, I think you have the wrong job. I mean, seriously, this is not the right way to do it. I mean, because we need to lead our guests, we need to lead our clients. We are the ones they trust, and it's again the trust. You know, if we do it, they will do it. I think it's a very, very important thing to move in that direction, because we're all in this industry because we love to travel, right?
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Hey guys, this was an amazing talk. It's 1 hour has passed. It's just flying. It was a wonderful variety of input. It just was flying by. I really would like to thank all of you. I would like to thank our audience, our listeners, our loopers, our friends out there for hanging in there with us and taking away a lot. I'm 100% sure of your wisdom and everything you have told us. Daniel? Yes?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. When you're done, I'd like to say one word at the end.
Okay, good. So, well, I'm done. I'm done with saying thank you and everything. And now it's you, Daniel.
I just wanted to say, and I'm sure that I speak not just for the other panelists, but for all of us in the audience, a big thank you to you, Astrid, for your ongoing and continuing creativity, innovation, for your, you know, good spirit, and you're just a very positive person. And just, you know, I said to you in the email as well, I'm impressed by that you come up with in the beginning places now. So just a big thank you for everything that you do for us, for the industry, for luxury travel, and really, it's really highly appreciated.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much, guys.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Okay, cheers. Hey, have a lovely evening. Thank you, everybody, for being in here. Take good care of yourself. See you soon.
Bye.
Ciao,
everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao. Bye.
Ciao.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Last time.